Spring is in the air at Global Voice Broadcasting. Fresh new shows are hitting the airwaves every day. Shows about all the things that matter to you in your life. Music, fashion, celebs, and more. It's all here, and it's getting better every day. Only at Global Voice Broadcasting.
To like a piece of theatrical work or a commercial piece of copy, but you know, when they ask you to rewrite the bit, it's what it is.
It's a little awkward.
Yeah, a little bit. That's cool. Hey, what's up? Welcome to All Over Voiceover, Kiff VH. I'm sitting here talking with someone I've known for a while, but don't know very well, and my wife has gotten to know you much better, and she was like, you have to have Patrick come in and talk on your show and talk together. So that's why Patrick Bristow is here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Kiff. Are you kidding?
How did you come to improvisation? How did you enter? How did improv present itself to you in your life?
All right. Well, I was a theater major freshman year, Loyola Marymount, so very Catholic acting style. And we did an improv-based show there, and that was 1981. I hadn't seen anyone do improv. It wasn't the big thing that it is now, but I really enjoyed it. So years after that, I was doing musical theater and, desperately trying to get into the chorus of shows like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers at the La Mirada Civic and not always getting in. A friend of mine took class at the Groundlings and said, you should try this. I went over, I did the audition for the intermediate level because I was cocky and I thought, well, I don't need to take beginning. I've already done it at a Catholic university. So I got into the intermediate level and just became addicted instantly. It was a good fit. I didn't fit a lot of other places just by virtue of my look, my personality, whatever. And and the Groundlings was a place where it's like, hey, you're a weirdo. Welcome.
Yeah.
It was kind of a lint trap for misfits and people that just, weren't cookie cutter. So, yeah.
I love that about the improv community.
Mm-hmm.
That it is the catch-all for people who want to do this type of thing, but have there's a creativity and a curiosity and an interest and an ability to pattern recognize and all those things.
Right.
And a uniqueness that it's like, oh, I want you as part of my ensemble, that you get to be.
Yeah, you bring something different. We're all kind of operating under the same, basic rules and everything like that. But, you're a new spice, you're a new flavor, and it enhances. I don't think anyone gets into performing, acting, improv because they want the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
It's so stimulating to work with people that have a different point of view, even a different experience level.
Yeah. I find I learn so much more from people who are either are fresh and new to it, and are curious and don't know anything about it, and are like, I remember teaching a class at Second City where one of my students came in and she flew in from either Florida or New Orleans or something like that, and she was like, I just turned 60. And for my birthday, I wanted to give myself something unique, and I've always wanted to do this, so I thought, why not go to L.A. and go to Universal and Disneyland and take an improv weekend intensive?
God, that's
right?
Fantastic.
And
awesome.
It changes the nature of the room.
Yes.
That generosity and stuff.
Yeah.
Were you doing short? Was it short form that you were introduced to originally, and that's what at Loyola when you were there?
Yes, that was purely short form. And then, of course, Groundling specialized in short form. We would do narrative long form, like an improvised play as the second act of an all-improv show, usually directed, guided, but, audience suggestions coming throughout the, half hour or whatever that the play lasted. And that was a lot of fun. But we never did, back in my day, the kind of clap-in or Herald style kind of thing. That wasn't on vogue at the time.
Yeah.
They do have a long form show of that kind of nature there now. It's been going on for like 10 years or something.
Okay.
And I've done that kind of improv maybe once or twice, but it just freaks me out. my friends are going like, oh, you'd be great at this. You'll be great at this. I'm like, and I'm just standing along the sideline getting into my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not my area.
I feel the same way.
Really?
I truly do.
But you've got that kind of Second City Chicago background. Didn't they also do some of that kind of stuff?
I value programmed on. The casts were like Scott Adsit and Tina Fey and Scott Allman. And those guys did a little bit of that. Rosowski's part of that scene too. Like he's
fantastic.
He's amazing. I got to assistant direct his show in Detroit that he directed.
Great.
And Sherry was in that cast, and Keegan and Mary Beth Monroe, a few other folks.
Great.
Watching him craft scenes and rework them and using some of that sort of that type of play from Dell and that kind of the IO clap in. Endow this moment. This is they're standing in front of a sign that says Lafayette, that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
And that's great, but I always feel like it's a banner ad or a commercial interrupting a movie I'm watching. I love taking time and building a scene and building a connection, and I feel that stuff can get really interruptive.
Yeah. If it's not the style that you're trained in or respond to as an audience member, yeah. I kind of improv is now more than when I started, very sectarian. It's like it's like the early days of of Protestantism. There's these different churches, and everyone is convinced that theirs is right and the others are Satan.
Right.
It's kind of funny to me, but it's also kind of like the dance world. When I have students that come from different backgrounds and are studying with me, and they're maybe a little frustrated as they're getting encouragement to do things they were discouraged from doing at the other school, I say, look, this is just like you went from one modern dance troupe that never flexed its feet, all right, into one that always does that. It's the same idea, but with different stylistic aspects. So just consider it broadening, your palette of how you can improvise, as opposed to a right-wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. How can you take and learn from these different places and then integrate them like jazz and turn it into like you might have a background in. I have no reference level for it, so if I say makes no sense. Yeah, if you have a background in, let's say, bossa nova, which I only know is a button you push on a cheap keyboard.
Sure.
If that's your background, you might integrate that into your style of play, where all of a sudden you're,
yeah,
again, yeah. It's about kind of being an amoeba and taking it in and mash,
Well, I think also as improvisers age, it seems to be a lot less judgment and a lot more openness and a more relaxed approach sometimes. This isn't true across the board, but I noticed that some people who've been improvising for, a couple decades or whatever, and they're in their 40s or whatever, that they can have a much more relaxed, easy, accurate approach to their work than, the firecracker energy, which sometimes in my classes I call happy panic, when people are like, so happy to be improvising, and I'm going to improvise fast, and I'm like, are you done talking? Because now it's me. Wow! And they don't even respond to what has just happened. And they're happy, but it's an uncomfortable happiness. It is still panic. And, so we try to kind of calm that down. Like, oh, hey, why don't you actually hear what was just said, see what was just done, try to understand what the other character's feeling, what are you getting from them? But you can't do that if you're over adrenalized, and too amped up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you through Sherry, working with you on Puppet Up and that Henson sort of style of puppeteering with improvisation.
Yep.
Can you tell me about the not necessarily the genesis, but what you've discovered through that process about yourself, not only as an improviser, but from a character creation standpoint? Like what has that experience been like for you since you started? 6 years ago? Is that how?
Oh no, 10.
Was it 10?
Yeah. We did the first class at Henson.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I had to adjust with the puppeteer improvisers was the fact that they could not have eye contact. By definition of the Henson puppetry style, which was developed for TV, the puppeteers are always looking at video monitors around their feet. Not like around their feet, like tied to them, but like in the plane area that they're using, there's a ring of monitors, and they have to always be looking at that to see how the shot looks, because they're a big part of composing that shot and how the puppet looks. Does the puppet look like it's really making eye contact to the other puppet? All these micro adjustments happening left and right. Oh, and speaking of left and right, when they look at the monitor, what they see as the left is the physical right.
So it's not like the mirror image like we're accustomed to. You have to learn to look at it differently.
Your brain has to rewire, and that has to become second nature. Yeah. Takes a while. So without having eye contact, which is so important in regular, improv, which I call fleshy improv now, because it's non-puppet improv, right. Or meat improv. Without that, the improviser is at a decided disadvantage because they can't see all those micro expressions. They can't see when someone's activating and just about to say something so you can get out of their way. You don't see when your partner is beginning to get in trouble. Everything is through what you hear and what you see the puppet do. And puppets, for all of their magic, are not terribly expressive. Mm-hmm. You can't see their pupils dilate because they don't. You don't see them inhale because they don't. Right? So all of the puppeteer improvisers had to become excellent ear listeners. And very intuitive and very instinctive and defending the give and take from a real gut level place because they can't see. So that was one of the first adjustments. Yeah. You asked about character.
Yeah.
People traditionally think, you put a puppet on your hand and you raise your voice an octave. Hi, I'm a puppet. Well, that's not the Henson vibe. Sesame Street a little bit, right? But the real Henson approach, outside of its children's programming, is relatable adult characters, people that we know, our bosses, our wives, our exes, our landlords, ourselves. And so people have to kind of be able to pick up these crazy-ass puppets and be able to put a character that is essentially human into it, whether it's a fish, a plant. Yeah, we have some plant puppets.
Right.
A hot dog with eyes,
Right.
A weird blue lady with button eyes, And so to find that relatable thing, the puppets take care of the whimsical aspect just by virtue of the fact they're puppets. And then the character choices have to be grounded in some relatable, recognizable human kind of choice. So that's one thing that affects the character choices that our improvisers are using when they pick up a puppet to do an improv.
When you're in the process of creating a character, it's very easy and very fast to say, I'll just pitch up a little bit, or I'll put some gravel on it, and that kind of thing. Sure. But what technique have you used, or do you use, or can you instruct that helps you create a more fully realized character in a short amount of time?
Now, are you talking strictly with the puppets or just in general?
I think I think in general,
okay.
but off of puppets is a great place to start. But then also leading into scripted material too. You know what I mean? Like when you're doing from an animation or a video game standpoint or any of those different places.
Right.
Just from when you first received the script to that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, starting with improv, you get the suggestion from the audience, and I try to get my improvisers to have reactions to the suggestion, not to get thinky, but to kind of almost like a high-speed download or like a litmus strip being dipped in something. It's a reaction. You say to me, Kohl's department store, and I don't know if I can say that on this, but
sure.
And I instantly have my biases and prejudices there of the types of people I think work there, the types of merchandise they have, and the people who shop there. I've been to one once. Now, but if the audience gives us Kohl's, I need to give them something that reflects my version of the truth of that.
Yes.
I don't just go off, whimsically and just do whatever I want.
Right. Here we are at Kohl's. So hand me that pizza.
Yeah, right. Or something that's too generic. The audience is a promise to the audience. They want to see a scene about Kohl's.
Yeah.
Or a set in Kohl's at least. And so my character choice is going to kind of drop in one, syllable to me. I know from my experience that I want to do something with my voice. I probably want to do something with my physical posture, not just a random choice, but something that goes with that voice. And also, most importantly, my character's point of view, what rules them. Am I a persnickety person, by the rules kind of guy? Am I neurotic? Am I overly warm and genuine? Some playable quality. Yeah. But those have to happen quickly and kind of, in just one syllable drop. Now, if I get into a physicality, the other things tend to happen just by, default. Same thing with voice. Some improvisers need to start with that point of view and then put things on top of it. Some need to start with a physicality. Some need to start with a voice. Some need to start with an emotion. Some need to start with object work action. Yeah. And then other things fill in. The last thing you want to be doing is thinking when you hear Coles as the suggestion, going, okay, now what's my voice going to be? What's my body going to be? Who am I? What, it really has to happen kind of fast. And I think the brain is fast enough for everyone to have kind of a reaction. So I think that muscle in classes needs to be worked so that no matter what I throw at you as a suggestion, you have a reaction pretty quickly that you can drop in and anchor yourself at the top of the scene. Now, I specialize kind of in commercial improv where people are paying sometimes, big bucks for our tickets. Yeah. We can't afford to be terribly, terribly indulgent and organic and go, the scene will start in 45 seconds to a minute. It can take a while to find that ding moment. We go, okay, we found the game of the scene, or we found the pattern, or we know what of the scene is, to use Groundling's terminology. We kind of need to hit the ground running, but not in a panic place. And so I try to kind of convey to my students that you are quick enough if you allow yourself to react, if you get out of your own way. And I give you the suggestion of a silverfish, right? You're going to have a visceral reaction. Associations are going to happen in your mind, and if your instrument's in tune, it's going to respond to whatever the suggestion is, and that's your starting point. Check in with your partner, see what they're doing. They go for some object work, you realize your choice isn't necessarily going to work, but you stay in that emotion that came to mind. You stay in that character that came to mind. You connect with them.
That's the gift that you brought to the scene and gave to them.
Hopefully. Yeah. And one of my mentors who you've worked with, Deanna Oliver, was very much about start the scene already connected. Let's not make the audience watch you. You guys have to find each other in the dark, right? Watch the warm up, as it were. Right. One night when our shows hadn't been going terrifically good in terms of connection, she said, I want all scenes tonight to start downstage center, both characters doing something together, eye contact, It was something along those lines. I might be misquoting her. But what she was doing was saying, we're going to have connection at lights up. And, of course, the scenes went fabulous. Right. And, anytime our troupe was sliding into certain habits, she just had the answer. And it was practical, concrete, and taught us something. We got too gamey at one point, and she goes, no games tonight, just spot scenes. And we were terrified. What? You're just going to get one suggestion and go? We were like, what? It's like, early 90s or something, when we were used to doing translations and, the different kind of stock new choice and, the stock games that audiences love, but you can really get into a rut. Yeah. And she was like, nope, you're getting one suggestion. What's it? Audience, what do you want to see? Fiber, go. Next scene, audience, what do you want to see? Cat fight, go. Audience, what do you want to see? Dental veneers, go. And it was really, really fun. Yeah. So.
Oh man, I love it so much. I love the freedom and the terror and the excitement and the adrenaline, and then the connection, the moment where it comes together and they realize it before you do. The moment where they're laughing at something that you guys are doing and you're not aware that you're doing it.
Isn't that delicious?
Oh, it's great. And then it makes you feel like you're brilliant. But then I realized I'm driving home. I'm an idiot. I got out of my way. Yeah. And that's what they were reacting to.
Right? And we get the credit for, I've had more, times after a show someone goes, oh, when you did that thing or your reaction to that was just priceless and brilliant. I'm thinking like, you do know that I actually misunderstood that moment and what you thought was so inspired was an accident and that my improv partner embraced that accident and made it look like a brilliant choice.
Right.
But thank you for being a lovely audience. Have a nice night. Yeah, I'm a genius. Bye now. Yeah, I'm up there with Jonas Salk. I discovered something.
Oh, man. When you're building your character choices out of a scripted piece of a material, and you don't have the benefit of working with anybody else. It's just Patrick Bristow, character, and then away you go. What's your process for making your character choices in that context where you have a little bit more time?
Yeah. Well, whether it's an audition or actual job, I mean, I really try to extract it from the text, and if I've been given any kind of direction, I try to find where the character and I intersect. How similar are we? How could I have been this person with a different upbringing, different intelligence level, different education, different life experiences, Yeah. Because I figure if I'm cast in something, I could have been that person.
Yeah.
In some parallel universe.
It's someone's decided that it's come to you, so there's got to be some intersection.
And a lot of times, frankly, over the last 20 some odd up to 30 years, I've been cast as an actor of personality, meaning they wanted me just to bring me to that part of the hotel clerk or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And it was written already generically enough that it, could be anyone. They just wanted me to bring that thing that I do. And, and that's lovely and can get one a lot of work, but ultimately after a period of time, you kind of go like, oh, it's this again. All right. And I actually can't do some of those characterizations that I did in the 90s. I can't do them anymore. I don't have the stomach for it. I'm older. I don't have that manic energy, or at least not as manic, I should say. And it's not really even a judgment. It's almost an inability. I just can't. I can't do that. I'm not interested in it. It's just fallen by the wayside. And I've still gotten the auditions and even offers where they want me to be that guy. And the results have been, I think, less than spectacular. So I'm passing on a lot more things these days.
That's interesting.
Recently I did a Criminal Minds and I had to play an adult who was on the spectrum, but a very high-functioning genius. And it was terrifying, I mean, I really had to dig deep, do research, think about, people that I knew that, are on spectrum and stuff, and try to do something that would, be as accurate and truthful as I could summon. I don't have a lot of dramatic acting on my resume. And I didn't want to do anything that would be disrespectful.
Certainly. It
was really kind of scary. So approaching that character, I had to do a lot of that intellectual work. To decide the parameters. Again, though, starting with the text, starting with the story. How does this character serve the story? Because it's not about my character or me. It's about the series regular who's interviewing me in that scene.
Right.
And how that figures into the plot.
Right.
And, I was very lucky that our director was incredibly enthusiastic and generous and liked the starting point of what I brought in. And then we had smooth sailing. Yeah. But every job is a little bit different. And I think when you get into the habit of going, like I said earlier, oh, this one again, I know what it is, you're going to get stale. And I have done that.
How can you keep it fresh? I mean, do you feel like, and if it's something like that, like you're describing of something that you've done a bunch of times and you're getting either don't have the stomach for it, or there's something about it that's a little bit different that you're like, okay, let's see if I can find that flavor,
Yeah. If there's something different there indicated on the page, or from casting director or whatever, then yeah, you've got something to make it different. If it really is the same old, for me. And let's say I really want to commit to, the audition. I would really love to do the part, but it really is in that old wheelhouse. It's on me to bring something different. It's on me to go back to basics, score the role, understand, how it serves the greater purpose, and find something that is going to make me have fun with it, be interested and curious.
Yeah.
and allow myself to be open, as I do the audition or the job. But occasionally, and it could just be kind of a biorhythms thing. The script comes in for the audition and you're like, I know I can't do this tomorrow at 11. I can't.
Yeah.
This is someone else's gig.
That's such a tough call to make too, when you just get accustomed to, I'm a wood chipper when it comes to auditions. If it comes in, I'm going to grind through it and figure it out. I'm going to get it out there.
Awesome.
You just have to. And then something comes in that makes the grinder stop. Mm-hmm. And either going, I just can't, for whatever reason, whether it's a personal reason or even a vocally stressful thing or just like, there was a Donald Trump voice match thing that came down, and right now everybody's got a Donald Trump somewhere.
Sure.
I can't do it. And it's not a matter of not wanting to, but it's like I just couldn't make the thing work, and I tried 15 different takes on it, and finally just sent an email saying, "I'm sorry, it's outside of my range, and I don't know why."
I don't know if I'm right here, but I think that might be a level of professional and artistic maturity. When I was young, it's like, send me out on anything and I'll go,
Yeah.
I'll let them determine whether I'm right or wrong, but I never questioned whether I could do it or not.
Yeah.
I think if something scares me, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I've had ones where I go like, I don't think I can do this. Oh, then I have to do it. But if I have the feeling of like, I have nothing to bring new to this, I can't find my way through it to bring something new to it. And the reason I can't do it has something to do with kind of a creative boredom, and I can't find my way out of it, then no, I'm not going to waste anyone's time.
Yeah.
And that's on me. And frankly, it's a failure as an artist in a way, but it's a batting average. I'm not always going to be able to, deliver A+ every single time.
Right. And the other part of it too, that I feel is, why would you want to see me come in and bring my 75% when I know how hard it is to get that slot?
Yeah.
And taking the spot from somebody who would be righter for that than what you're asking me to do. And and thank you, but I don't know. It's a weird transitional feeling, because it's just something like you say. I feel growing as an artist to the point where you start to put those boundaries up of like, I don't want to chew on that one.
Yeah, and it's not diva-ish at all.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of circumspect. I think it's realistic. I just didn't have that, in my 20s. I turned down things in my 20s, like, because I found certain, gay cliche roles in certain things really damaging. First of all, I love fun with stereotypes to a point, and God knows I've done a lot in that tradition. And for me, as a gay actor, it's like we kind of developed camp, and we kind of developed these heightened persona that were based on, or personae that were based on ourselves and our friends. And I don't want to throw that baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
But if the gay characterization is being denigrated by the lead characters who the audience relates to, if it's a damaging depiction that young people are going to see and then feel bad about themselves, like, oh, I guess we're weak. The world hates us, then I don't really want to go there. Yeah. So there's a few different reasons that I may have the inability to, create a characterization for, or want to.
Right.
For an audition or even an offer.
It's fascinating, man. It's so interesting how this stuff, it makes sense as an organic, living, breathing thing. And during the course of your career, you see and experience different things. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I definitely get a little bit more turned on by something that's new and different and challenging. But I think that's why a lot of us went into improv, because you go out there every night and you have no idea what's going to be thrown at you.
Right.
Yeah. And so you can play characters that you're never going to get cast in. That's another thing I tell my students. I go, you guys, this is a lovely opportunity for you to work outside the box that the business will put you in. You know,
that's right.
You could be the big kind of, you know, slobby heavy guy and play the hot guy. You know, I'm 53 with a white goatee. I can play the stable boy, you know, who's walking around shirtless. Not that I would really on stage. Oh, it'll be object work, mind you.
Right.
But you know, people can play outside of their demographics.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's fun.
It was Sherry. I remember talking about this when she was in graduate school. One of her instructors had them. Just did a casting of, we're going to read, I think it was Henry IV Part 1.
Okay.
Or something like that. And she got to play Falstaff. And it was, awesome. It hit at such a great part in her life where it became this sense of, as a black woman, an attractive one, I'm never going to be allowed to play this role. But what am I going to bring my attractive black womanness to this character that's going to transform the way I look at him forever?
Yeah.
You know? And being able to have an opportunity like that, you know, and create that opportunity for yourself when you're improvising.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, or in any of these, you know, creative endeavors that don't involve a camera or someone's judging it.
Yeah. Or another player endows you and labels you as something that you never would have done yourself. You never would have chosen. And, you know, it's go time. And that's fun, you know. I think maybe that's another reason why some people like the freewheeling nature of the long form improv thing, because they really can take, you know, just twists and turns that you just don't see coming, and they can be really delightful. And there is a little bit more of that anything can happen feel, just by definition, maybe, than in a lot of short form.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know nothing. Why am I here?
You know, you're an interesting person.
You think? Tell my husband that.
How long have you guys been married?
Married 6 years, together 22.
Where did you meet?
At the Groundlings.
No kidding.
He was part-time house manager. He worked at ABC Productions at the time, but he took a weekend job. He says he took it to meet me, and I think that is such a load of BS. I think that's just pretty talk. I think he thought, like, he must have this huge ego, so I'll tell him I took the job to meet you. And I'm like, that just makes me actually kind of sad. Really? You did that? Ugh.
When did you first start teaching improvisation, and how did that change your work?
Oh my God. I think I probably started training as a teacher in about 1990 at the Groundlings and got my first class that year. There was a shortage of teachers. I was new in the company, but they were like, I think it was like you had to be in the company a few years before you could start teaching, and then we had a shortage, and they said, okay, well, select people will be able to, you know, within 6 months after getting in or something. So I started training. How did it change me as a performer? My word. Trying to look at each student as a unique Rubik's Cube and understand what they need to get to the next level of, let's say, you know, delivering good specific information in a scene, helping to raise the stakes, making entrances that build upon what we've already seen in the scene, that kind of thing. Helping them get these technical benchmarks made me analyze the process much more. Put me squarely in my head.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And then I'd improvise, and I'd be thinking like a teacher, which was awful. We'd be in the early moments of the scene. I'd go, nobody's labeled the where. Nobody's labeled the where. And then I'd clumsily label the where.
Yeah. And then I'll kill a scene so fast. We'll stop exploring and be looking for the blow, because I feel like the scene has been going on too long, and I'm not living in this place of self. I'm constantly judging the scene, whereas being inside of it. Or we'll play a teacher in the scine.
Oh, right. Yeah. Know? I'm going to control all of you for the next 3.5 minutes.
Is that really the move you're going to make? Where are you going?
I tell my students, you know, about the low percentage choice of teaching scenes. I go, it's undynamic. I go, imagine if somebody came in and was watching our class right now as a scene with me yammering up here and you all looking at me with, you know, dilated pupils, bored out of your mind. It's not dynamic. There's less interaction, you know. But getting out of that teacher head became the challenge. So you learn to switch gears. But the process of teaching just taught me so much about my own needs for improvement. I saw some of my own habits manifest in students and went, oh, wow, I don't like that. Who would want to improvise with that? We got to work on that with you. Oh, wow. I do that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So teaching still teaches me a lot.
Yeah.
I'd say the turning point for me, though, I'm going to sound like I'm name dropping here because I am going to name drop.
Go for it.
Was we did an anniversary show at the Groundlings, and Phil Hartman came back, and we did an all-improv show, and I got to work with him. And at that time, I was one of those improvisers that was, high energy, very physical. I weighed 130 pounds. I could hang from the bars. I was still close enough to the ballet training of my youth that, all manner of physicality was possible. And, I was quick, and it's like, you can't keep up with me? Eat my dust,
Right.
And it was a very high voltage kind of improv style, but it wasn't ensemble-y. And I did a scene with Phil, and I was cast it was a buddy cop thing, and I was cast as his new partner, and I was a fairy. So, we had a prop room off stage. I got wings and a wand. I was good to go. Mm-hmm. And he was playing, the kind of easy Phil Hartman kind of thing that he did that was so creamy and effortless and good.
Man.
And I show up and I'm springing about and everything. And I'm not ignoring him. I mean, I wasn't being a dick, but I was definitely paying off my suggestion.
Right.
And giving him something to react to. But he just held his place on stage with such a gravitational force, like he was Jupiter. And he'd watch me, and he was enjoying what I was doing, as he told other people afterwards. And then he would just drop one line and bring down the house. And meanwhile, I'm working up a sweat.
Yeah.
And I'm doing okay. The scene was going really well, but there was a real differential between all this effort and pyrotechnics going on and this guy who just did one thing, and that was present with what was really happening in the moment. And he yes-anded all that effortlessly with economy. And I remember just thinking, I want to be that.
Yeah.
So I've never become that, but I've definitely moved on the spectrum toward that.
Yeah.
And have a much deeper respect for accuracy in the moment and taking the extra nanoseconds to understand what has happened in front of you so that your reaction really builds off that. And that if you're given a complexity of information from another partner or partners in a moment, that you can very easily prioritize it and and the most salient aspect of it. And then maybe do that and be able to and the other things in just 1.5 lines and just scoop the whole thing up there. Yeah. It's the hard thing for me was my anxiety and nerves, which I used to leverage for my performance.
Right.
But I learned that I have to wrangle that so that I can be present the way he was, and then therefore as accurate as he was, because the audience responds to accuracy. We have to be the most awake people in the room. That's what they're paying for. Not the quickest, not the craziest, not the wackiest, the most awake. And sometimes the biggest laughs come from just calling out the truth in the moment.
Yeah.
That other people are ignoring. Yeah. All right. Sermon concluded. About 3 minutes ago, your listeners started going.
You can't follow up a sermon like that with
Charlie Brown's teacher. Improv. Yes, and object work. I think.
But you can't follow up that level of truth.
I'm sorry, I have to crap on myself.
But why?
But
you're saying things. This is the thing, though, Patrick. You just said some things that in my 20 some odd years of improvising that I've never heard, and that notion of being the most awake person in the room, the person who's there in that economy of listening and then deciding what is the most salient thing to lift and react to, in that it's an intuitive notion and all that other kind of stuff. And everything that I've learned and discovered and trained and thought, it's one of the most, like, it's I don't know. It was an ace I could keep and put in my back pocket and use. So I mean, so that's why I'm denying your WhaWhaWhaaaa. But I'll yes and it.
Denying and yes and at the same time. Wow,
that's right. I know.
A new skill set has been born.
I'm wondering. I remember saying this, and I don't know if this is true, but I've said it to students, and so I may be completely wrong, and I'll take it back.
Have you ruined a generation?
I think I've ruined a generation. At least 4 levels at the second city.
Oh no.
Where I said, where my understanding of denial, because everybody gets yes and, but then when you come into denial, them going, well, is it okay to say no in this context? Mm-hmm. And my approach has been already good. It makes me feel like I'm not completely wrong. Or what I've said was like, of course you can use the word no. That's not taken off of the table from in your vocabulary. What's important is that even in saying going negative with something, and not even negative because that has the wrong connotation, taking it the negative to a response to a certain thing.
Negative can be funny and good and propel a story.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily for beginners. Right. I know exactly what you're talking about. People start thinking that they can never say no, that they have to agree with, their character has to agree with everything the other character says or does. Well, that's going to make for some bland children's theater scenes. But, when I start with beginners, we will take no out of the vocabulary at first. We'll take but out of the vocabulary first because it diminishes previous information.
Yeah.
We will try to get them to see the value of exploration because most people want to define themselves like a 2-year-old by going, I'm not you. So you make an offer and I go, my offer.
Right.
Right? That kind of thing.
Right.
You have to get people past that and wanting to engage, wanting to explore together, even if it's not their idea.
Yeah.
Giving up that ego, giving up that agenda. To me, that's kind of business one. So the yes and aspect is grasped during that part of the training.
Mm-hmm.
And then they learn that yes-anding isn't just agreeing with what your partner said with their mouth and their voice and adding a new detail to it, but that you're yes-anding the emotional truth of the moment or what's really salient in the moment, because it's not always just what the person says.
Yeah.
I mean, if, you're eating a cookie at the top of the scene and from upstage, the person playing your mother goes, Tommy, I hope you're not eating all the cookies for tomorrow's bake sale. And you're going to hide it. You're going to go, no, I'm not. That's yes-anding her.
Yeah.
But sometimes a beginning student goes like, but he said no.
Right.
And the paradox to me is that, if you actually do just say yes, then that's going to propel the scene and that's going to be fun. You're just going to own it. Yeah, I'm eating them.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm just making sure that they're delicious and they were all good.
Yeah. and they were.
And they were.
So no is a potent spice. Negative, combative choices, resistance is a potent spice. It has to be used really sparingly. But if someone says, here's a can of gasoline and a match, set your head on fire in a scene. Might be fun to see you do it.
Yeah.
But we're in a different surreal world if you do that.
Yes.
Yeah. And it might be more fun to see you go, I can't do that for you. You're asking too much, right? And see some resistance.
I've already given you a kidney.
Yeah.
How much more do I need to do?
I haven't even healed from that yet.
Right. I still have this staple hasn't fallen out yet.
No, I got bladder infection. So, all right.
I did that for you.
All right. So we've just established a really sick relationship with just resisting the offer.
Right.
So, advanced improvisers break and bend the rules all the time, but it seems to be an instinctive thing that they just know, this is going to help. They're not even really thinking about it.
Right.
But you want to get those early improvisers out of the habit of being agenda-driven, thinking ahead, resisting, refusing, certainly denying.
Yeah.
As long as I've done this, I was working with Impro Theater a couple of years ago, and they're a fantastic company. They do costumed, improvised, genre-inspired plays.
Where are they here in Los Angeles?
Yeah, they're in Los Feliz.
Okay.
But they perform all over.
Okay, great.
And they've got now they've got some like 11 genres that they do beautifully. Well, I was guesting with them, and we had rehearsal for Shakespeare, and I did a flat-out classic denial. No, I was labeled like, something like, you're my lawyer, but he used the Shakespearean term for the word. And I went, no, I'm the suitor to your daughter. And everyone gasped. And I looked around like, like I had just farted in front of the Queen or something like that, and just everyone, like, then there was no hiding it. I was like, there's a silence, and I said, what was that? What did I just do? It was so horrifying,
Oh, man.
I mean,
especially when you're guesting. You come in,
right?
And there's this reputation preceding you, and you walk into the room, and you are the turning. No, I'm not. I'm this.
I understand you teach improv, Patrick. You've done this before? Them? I teach them.
I teach them deny the 3 rules of improv. No, but deny.
And steamroll everyone.
And steamroll everybody.
And label people mute.
And shoot them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really soiled the bed a few times in just delicious, horrible ways that surprised me.
Man. But one of my early improv teachers at Second City always he was on main stage cast, would say, make sure that you come and see our shows and then stay for the set and come and watch us fail. You need to see us get up there and suck so that you can see how hard this really is and how much more wonderful when the scenes really sing they are, because they're in the middle of something that's all right. Yeah. I think, Jerry Seinfeld says, I think that your fame as a stand-up buys you about 5 minutes. And after that, if you don't start getting laughs, and the same thing is true with improvisation, the audience knows that you're making it up and there's a tremendous level of forgivability.
Sure. They're on your side.
Yeah. But when you start getting boring, I tell my students all the time, it's like, I don't care if there's silence. If there's silence, they're with you.
Yeah.
It's the sound of. Yeah. That means they're going through their thing. They're checking their phone. They're looking for gum, and you've lost them.
Yeah.
What can you do to keep it alive?
Well, first off, don't panic. Because as we know,
that doesn't help.
That doesn't help. Everyone's talking at the same time and wiggling and pulling out firearms, and we're gonna get you back. It's an interesting dance. I tell my students that they all have an invisible, permanently renewing suck pass in their back pocket, and if they completely suck, and I don't actually make them do that. I go, you can hand it to me, and I'll punch a hole in it, and that hole will heal like a starfish regenerating, and it's always there, and you always have that out, Yeah. It doesn't mean that we just accept, substandard work or anything like that, right. But no one's going to break a leg, get the flesh-eating bacteria, or create an international incident with a bad improv. So once people realize that falling off the bike doesn't hurt, they'll ride the bike a little faster. They'll take a jump, they'll pop off the curb, a wheelie. How many more bike things can I say?
I think that was most of them.
Yeah, is that all?
Yeah, I think that was it. Well, it was jump, down, wheelie. Yeah, build a ramp. Yeah. You hit it. You hit it.
Got them all.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll take more chances if they know that, you're not going to ream them afterwards.
Right. And sometimes, it's... I don't know. I love John Vorhaus's The Comic Toolbox. He talks about the rule of 9s. And the rule of 9s being that if you try to write a list of funny band names, that 9 out of 10 are going to stink. And in that, it allows you to write 100. Because then you know that you'll get 10 out of it. Yeah. And that idea of you just keep swinging and you got to keep going. I'm saying this exact same thing you just said, but just saying it, dropping a name, John Vorhaus.
Well, it's like I think it's Anne Lamott who talks about writing and like just putting out that crap draft first. I think it's her that says that. You just don't judge. Just is batting average. Yeah. Weave a bunch of fabric. Find the section that looks good
and cut it out
and cut the dress out of that.
Yeah.
Okay. How gay was that?
Hey, I sew, but
you sew.
I sew.
I mean, I can operate a machine, but what do you mean you sew? Do you make cafe curtains?
No. I made a snow skirt for my nieces.
Wow.
It's
wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed and a little disappointed.
How are you disappointed?
Because I thought you.
It's a tool. A sewing machine is a tool.
I'm totally kidding.
My mom made banners and flags growing up. She's an artist, and that was what she did. And
oh, wow, that's interesting.
My job through high school and college and beyond was working for her, working with fabric.
Yeah.
So I made, before Hot Topic had branded material of the movies and television shows and comics that I liked, I made my own. So I would find a picture at the library, since there was no internet. Well, the internet was exclusively for intranet purposes, but I would find, the Back to the Future logo and then cut it out of ripstop nylon and put Stitch Witchery on the back with an iron, and then iron that onto a sweatshirt. And then I had a Back to the Future sweatshirt.
Sure, and you were using ripstop. Interesting.
Yeah, that was the stuff she was using. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like even clothes. I know it's usually used for sales or whatever, banners.
Exactly, because that's what we had. So she would make these windsocks, and I would use it for that. But the color saturation was great.
Yeah.
You really
wow, you know some things. Ever used an interlock machine?
I've never used what's an interlock machine?
That's that one with the 3 spools and 3 needles that gives you that thing that you notice on the inside of seams.
Oh, yeah.
Where the threads are looping kind of around in an organized fashion.
Do you sew?
I did costume crew in college for a semester and learned just enough skills to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But I've never used an interlock machine. To me, that's kind of like the, how serious are you?
Right.
Kind of litmus test. I haven't used one.
Right. I understand. There's certain levels of tools that indicate how deep in you are.
Yeah. Like, are you a bassoonist? Yeah. Have you played a contrabassoon? Oh, yeah, several times. Well, you're a serious bassoonist.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just, noodled with, you're just pretending to be Charles Martin Smith and Never Cry Wolf.
Okay.
You're not really a bassoonist.
You're not really. How dare you?
When you, I know that you've done VO work on shows like King of the Hill and some of these other things. Were you working ensemble or were you working alone in those contexts? And what was your process for preparation and going into an animation situation versus an on camera?
Mostly I've worked with ensembles or with the characters that are in the scene. Sometimes I've done that thing where you're alone and you're shooting them or recording them wild.
Yeah.
And that's always disturbing. But you just trust the director. They get different line readings and tones and things like that, and they'll mix and match. But mostly I've been in the recording studio with the principals. It's been a lot of fun. My preparation, I don't. It's been a while. I don't think I have one other than I just don't have to comb my hair. So it's probably a lack of preparation. But also I know that when I go in there, they're gonna guide me and finesse everything.
Yeah.
So I'm not terribly.
I find my improv training has helped me feel very comfortable with walking into a room without having anything either preloaded or expectation or whatever.
That's it. I'm not afraid to go. I don't feel like with an on-camera thing, like I was telling you, like with the dramatic part, I really had to knuckle down and and soul search and research and everything. Typically, I get a script for something I'm going to do that's voiceover for animation, and I certainly familiarize myself. I play with the voice of the character, that kind of thing, and then go in, and it's almost kind of like a blend between scripted and improv because you're going to get direction.
Yeah.
And half the time that I've done that, almost all of it, it's not been audition. It's been offer because they think that I have the right kind of voice for that character. It's almost exclusively gay characters. I don't know why that is because I think I sound butch as hell.
It's especially when you say the phrase butch as hell.
Right.
It really screams straight.
It does.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, and I think improv where you have survived in improv where you survived so many dire situations.
Yeah.
You've done industrials that just all the bank tellers looked at you like, really? Where's the band? You guys are the entertainment. Or
this is not entertainment. Did someone say this was edutainment? It's neither.
Oh, that's the worst word in the world.
I'm learning nothing from these people. This isn't funny. Give us our motivational speech so we can go have the hot luncheon network.
Really, let's do the PowerPoint presentation.
Can we just cut to that?
Yeah.
Because these guys with their puns and their piece about anagrams, not interesting anymore.
Horrible. So you survived those moments.
That's right.
The
check always clears from those shows.
Yeah, or even in a good improv show, you have that one scene that, you cringe driving home, like, and you survive them. And so I think it can give you a healthy version of confidence, and as long as you don't let that become an unhealthy version of being cocksure and unprepared and become addicted to the adrenaline of writing your term paper the night before and know the difference of what is required for, each job. I think that confidence that it brings and that, like, I'll survive this no matter what happens is really valuable.
I totally agree. I think that's one of the real values of improvisation, of that that it's helped me more in that way.
Yeah.
In terms of a mental preparation, or not even, or a comfort level of just being unprepared but open.
Yeah.
I had a situation yesterday where I got an audition the night before, and the script that was sent was not the script that was there.
Yeah.
And it was, but I had a suspicion it might not be, but I didn't know 100%. I didn't want to be like, guys, can we check into this, by the way, just to make sure? I just didn't want to be that guy to my managers.
Yeah.
I probably should have been, because when I got there, it was a totally different script. But it was my comfort level and confidence to be like, well, all right, well, let's work with this and figure out what we got to do. Yeah.
And, it's funny that kind of confidence level, if it's a relaxed confidence that isn't cocky, it tends to put the other people involved on, kind of a relaxed place because it's contagious.
Yes, it is.
It can be mistaken as cockiness, too, and arrogance. It's like, you should be a little bit more scared right now of this. And it's like, well, no, that we're not going to blow up the Western world.
Yeah.
If I'm not good, it's not going to kill me if I'm not great,
And what's worse, me coming in all tense and bound up and concerned about being able to be right and get it right because I've only got one and I don't want to make an impression? Or am I coming in facile and open and ready to take your direction?
Yep.
And move in different directions. And if it goes awry, laugh it off because it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. If the culture of that set allows you to laugh it off, you know, sometimes they're very forgiving, but they certainly don't want to get the idea that you're taking it lightly.
Right.
And, I try to be as prepared as I can because I know my enemy is anxiety. So I know my lines now like the back of my hand because I know on set there are going to be for on-camera work there are going to be distractions. There are going to be things that might contribute to me becoming more nervous or whatever. So my security net is to feel when I hit the set like I've done this play for 6 months. I know my way around the scene. I'm going to be fresh. I'm not going to be stale. I haven't locked myself into line readings
right
or even how the character is. I've got my starting point and I'll be, as you said, flexible and facile and excited to get that direction. But I can only be excited to get that direction and be that flexible if my work is done.
Yeah.
I was on a set less than a year ago where I had a couple pages of just reams of dialogue. And I knew it. I thought I knew it. I knew it. I could recite it. I could handwrite it out. I knew it.
Yeah.
I got on set and something happened where suddenly the whole scene did not make sense to me. And
man.
I got a case of the silly buggers or version of that, which is where you just realize what you're doing is totally ridiculous. And I could not get through it for the first several takes, and we'd be half a page into it and it's gone. And 150 extras have to back up to one. And the director finally steps out and goes, "Hey, can I talk to you?" She goes, "Where did you go? What happened?" And I said, "I'm in math class mind right now. I just need to get through this mechanically. I'm so sorry. I need to get through this mechanically once."
Yeah.
She goes, "Well, just have fun." And I'm like, "Oh, no. That's the most useless direction." I mean, that can be direction when someone's prepared, but they're worried about the process. They're worried about the result.
Right.
Yeah, just have fun. We're going to do this a million times. But when someone is in that hole that I was in, you need concrete help.
Yes.
And that is, look, if you blow it again, I'm going to yell hold, have everyone back up a few steps. Script supervisor will be right off there. We'll feed you into the next section. We'll do it. And it's a terrible way to shoot a master. But knowing that the actor is imploding, right? And again, this has happened to me 3 times in my entire career, that you have to get that master. And just to keep going at it may or may not yield the results. So it was really embarrassing. And I was horrified. Yeah. But it just made me double down on the preparedness, you know? Because I honestly, I did know my lines.
Yeah.
I didn't know everything so well enough that when that moment happened in my head where I went, this whole thing does not make sense to me. The way my character is acting, the fact that my character was doing a character, which was part of the conceit, and the fact that my character could not do that character effectively. And I didn't listen to those red flags during rehearsal that popped up. I was just a good soldier.
Yeah.
And I should have spoken up earlier. Like you said, I should have possibly confirmed with my manager that I had the right script.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen to instincts, and then it came back to bite me. Long story short, we got through the scene. I don't think anyone made eye contact with me the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But when I went in the next morning and nailed my scenes, it seemed like all was forgiven. But, rough.
That's a tough spot to be in.
I wanted to run to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to run, get in my car, and get off set.
And it is the loneliest place. It's one of those lonely places where there's nothing else I have to do other than what I was supposed to do 7 hours ago, from the perspective of the guy holding the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy leaning on the camera going, I could do what he does. I don't want to be the guy who's inspiring the camera loader to go, I want to pursue this work because I know I could. Because if he's doing it,
yeah, right.
Awful. I did a series of spots for Denny's, and and they were all, the director wanted them right down the barrel.
Yeah,
30 seconds, we're gonna get them, and I had most of them, but it was that pressure, and there was one spot in particular, and I know they're gonna cut away. I know we're gonna cut to a product shot. I know where that product shot is going to be.
Yep.
You will never run this full master with no edit.
Yeah.
But we got to get it.
Yeah.
And we did so many takes, they reset the slate. They reset the count to let's start over.
Wow.
Maybe that's it. Let's go to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I must have had at least 90. And then the script supervisor would sit there, and then the first AD would sit there, and it was just the most harrowing, embarrassing.
Yeah.
And there's no way out of it. You're there.
You're in the vortex.
Yeah.
You've been sucked into that thing, and
what I learned,
delicious.
I need food. That's what it is. I'm just hungry.
There you go.
What do you need? Do you need me to run lines? What I really need is to have a banana and go walk outside for a second. And then maybe I'll be all right.
Yeah. And you know what? I think when they have the luxury of time, and good directors and producers understand that giving you 5 minutes, 10, whatever now, that we're going to make that up. And if we don't do this, it's going to be diminishing returns.
Absolutely.
To the point of catastrophe, potentially.
Yeah. Where you're on the phone with a casting director going, who was our number 2 guy, and how quick can we get him in makeup?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Just a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
What our time is quickly waning, but I do want to follow up with something. If you were designing, and you teach your own stuff. You don't just teach you teach. So as you build, what would be your ideal curriculum? What would you want? Not curriculum, because that's asking you to give me 25 minutes.
I was already sweating it.
Yeah. What if someone comes and takes a 3-hour class and afterwards said, man, I got to tell you something. There was a lot of great stuff in there, but the thing that really stuck with me and really changed the way I play is X. What would you most want someone to gain from the experience of either taking a class or hearing or walking out of an improv class that they need to be doing or thinking?
Well, I guess it would depend on, each player and what they need to hear, because it's different.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I would love to hear students saying, my classes or anyone's classes, going, wow, I learned to be relaxed and present in the moment and trust. I learned to trust myself, trust my partner, and trust the process so that I can respond truthfully, accurately, or hilariously in the moment and really just improvise as opposed to write 1 second before I deliver the line or try to direct the scene or work my agenda. So immediacy, I guess, is the one thing that I think is a turning point for a lot of improvisers.
Yeah.
That and wanting it. Going, I'm going to be committed to this. I like being in the moment. I'm scared and I love it. The dirty little secret about improv, we've been doing it since we were born. We never know what's going to happen in the next moment, and we respond in, a range of logical ways. Yeah. But the minute we're up there and we're supposed to be funny, boom, we don't know how to respond to someone going, here's your iced tea.
Right.
What do I do? How about thank them? Just thank them.
What would you really do?
Yeah.
We've been improvising our entire lives, listening and reacting. That's what you do, and you live in the moment. You just
it's a dirty little secret.
That's it.
We do it all the time.
That's right.
Otherwise, we'd be walking out in front of buses, right?
Right.
We'd be depositing checks to other people's accounts. We'd be combing our hair forward over our chins, wearing shirts backwards. We'd be flummoxed by a toothbrush. Right. We know how to take in stimulus and respond, and sometimes multiple at the same time.
Right.
But we get on that improv stage, and it's the only place where you could hear someone say, "Oh my God, your head's on fire," and the other person would go, "Okay, what's for lunch?"
That's right.
It's the only place where this weird level of, non-acceptance and non-awareness seems to happen, other than maybe certain wards and hospitals.
That's right. and that's where it belongs, and it should stay there.
It should stay there.
Not on stage.
Yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
It's just been a delight to be able to sit and talk with you about this stuff. And
I know.
What do you have coming out? What can be... I'm glad. See, that's what it's about, is being confident and comfortable without being cocky, and that was a very honest statement.
That's my new version of Catholic deflection. You're really good. I know.
Yeah. Well, I think you get to a point where you got to stop denying it.
It's so uncomfortable for other people.
Yeah. Oh, please stop. Don't say all those wonderful things about me. No. Just, it's like a gift. I was having a conversation. I had a conversation with Sherry about this after a show that she did, where she was like, "I hate going out after the show and people coming over and saying that they enjoyed it." And my point to her was like, listen, it's a conversation. Live theater is a conversation that you are having with the audience. And their applause is their response to the 90 minutes that you just gave them.
Yeah.
And if they come up to you afterwards, it's that they have one other thing that they need to express. And all you can do is, I know it might be mildly uncomfortable, but it might be the thing that they were working through. It was like, I never thought or felt that way about something, and you changed my opinion about that with your emotional life on stage there.
Yeah.
And it's not that you need to go do that, but if you learn to say thank you to that and absorb that gift.
And be present in that moment and really thank them, and not just be, thank you very much.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Frozen face on the picture they take with you. The forced conviviality that isn't real. Joyless smiles.
Joyless smiles.
The mirthless laughter of the damned. No, and you're exhausted. You've done this show, but, I kind of feel like you owe it to them to be present with them for that moment.
And they're exhausted, too. You took them on an emotional journey, and they have no place else to put it, because when they drive away, no one else has shared that experience. I remember seeing Seven in the movie theater with a girl, and she was like, I think it was a colleague of mine. We worked Camelot Music together, and I walked out of that theater like, I need to go get a cup of coffee and talk about what we just seen, and I'm not trying to talk upskirt. I just need to process it. And she was like, see ya, bye-bye. And it wasn't even, I didn't say anything. She was just kind of like, well, that was fun. See you later. And I was kind of like, no, we
have to
process this.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep.
I'm not gonna, So I feel like it's important as it's it's the benefit of live theater and improv, all these things, to be accessible, to be able to, not necessarily that's your duty, but there is that sense of completion.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can people find you, either study or watch and observe and take in or enjoy your stuff?
Well, Puppet Up is headed off to Vegas for a mid-late July opening at the Venetian. So I'm in heavy-duty prep for that right now, and my current in-town LA improv class ending, and I won't be able to do that. So until I'm back from Vegas, and who knows when that will be, I won't be probably having classes.
But people can see you perform in Las Vegas with Puppet Up, yes, host?
Yeah. I'm the MC for the show, awesome. As well as the director, and I'll be in it to win it. I'll be there 6 nights a week, and probably kind of a slightly sparkly suit.
That's great.
One can only hope.
And if people want to catch up on your catalog or things that they could see you in,
just turn on a TV at any given time.
That's what I thought.
Ubiquitous. No, I don't know. Every once in a while I get, somebody goes, hey, you were on this. I'm like, oh, they're rerunning that old thing again? All right. Can't wait for my 19-cent check.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I'll pop up when you least expect it. It'll
Awesome.
be mildly irritating and, just like finding sand months after, in your clothes.
What?
Months after
Is
going to the
this
beach.
still in my pants?
Like, I was doing a show once where we had a very small cast at the Groundlings, and we were out there a lot. And I literally walked on for like maybe fourth or fifth piece, and I heard somebody in the third row go, "Oh, him again." I felt their pain. I didn't judge them.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Patrick, thanks again so much for joining me,
Oh, him again.
and thank you for tuning in for another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great holiday weekend, or whenever you end up listening to this.
Oh, that was smooth.
Yeah, wasn't that nice? I just made it completely timeless. Thank you for joining us on All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. Please take a moment to review the show and let other folks know what you thought. And if you dug it, please subscribe. Follow the show on Twitter at AllOverVO and check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/AllOverVO with Kiff VH. That's it for this time. You get what you get and don't get upset. Claim victory and depart the field.